Exactly right. Where would I be without God's plan? Where would I be without the life and death and sacrifice of Jesus Christ? So he tells us, he tells Colossae, and by way of application, us, be grateful for what you have. He's just beginning to build this up and talk about the sufficiency of Christ. So he says, be grateful. Giving thanks. And I like that word because he follows it through the remainder of the book. He changes whether it's a verb or different endings to show different aspects of being grateful. It literally means, the root of the word means to show favor. Notice, if you will, in chapter 1, verse 3, verse 12, chapter 3, verse 17, he uses that word, huhadasel, thanks, thank. And then in chapter 2, verse 7, and chapter 4, verse 2, he gives the meaning of thanksgiving. And then when you look at chapter 3, verse 15, he says, be thankful. So he's using the same root word. He's changing the endings to show what it is to be grateful and the different ways in which we can show that we are grateful. The idea comes, I think, from Psalms 107, is that God is the source of all our blessings. James says it this way in James 1, verse 17. Every good thing given, every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights. Giving thanks is a way of life. You're letting me do all the talking. All right.
I'll talk.
Okay.
I'm not bashful.
That's okay.
I don't think we realize, and I don't think that our minds can comprehend how thankful we should be. I just don't think that's something that we can grasp. You know, I know that you know, we're thankful because the difference is between heaven and hell. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what the difference is, and the gifts that we get and the attitude that we have here on earth is from God. I think this is me personally. I think the Bible alludes to it. It don't come out and tell us this, but I think Christians are to be the happiest people on the face of the earth.
They should be. Absolutely.
And, you know, without fail. You know,
Yeah.
regardless of what they're going through.
Hard to get the smile off her face.
Yeah.
What are you so happy about? I can tell you. You know? Because there's a lot of unhappy people around. A lot of problems. And they don't have, or they haven't taken advantage of the help that is there for them as well. I'm going to read out of the American Standard Version for a reason, and then I'm going to switch to different versions. Giving thanks to the Father, notice, who has qualified us. That's the New American Standard Version. But the American Standard says, who made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints of life. The word meet there is an old word in that. We don't really use it anymore in that. But if you grew up like I did, you were told the King James is the official version, that God delivered the King James Version, and that is the only version. So I grew up memorizing nothing but the King James Version. Even in preaching school, it was the King James Version and that. So I try to look at different translations. I try to be careful because not all translations are very, very good. Some of them have an agenda, to be honest with you. But it's good to have different translations, to be able to look at the word. If you can go and get you a Greek reference in that and look at the Greek reference, and if it gives you a listing of all the different ways that the word is used, take your time and look at them. But if not, you'll find the very source, where the word originated from. And that's important as well. The word meet in the King James Version means to make or to be able. So if I look at it, who has enabled us to share in the inheritance? The translation that I use is qualified. So you see, he's giving different aspects. It's a hard word to really, the concept, if you will, is hard to translate into one word and capture the full meaning of it. At least that's my understanding. I want to translate it this way. You weigh it out for yourself. Who has designed us to share in the inheritance of the saints of life? Designed us. See if that fits. And if it does, consider this. What has God designed us for? I mean, everything's been designed by God. From the creation and everything in the creation, unseen parts of the world, everything has been designed by God. There's not a single thing that God designed that doesn't have a purpose. So if he says, you've been designed by God for this purpose, what does he mean?
John?
Yes, sir.
That means he had a when we were designed, that he had a vision. Vision's a poor word. That's all I can think of. A vision in mind that was the end result.
That's right.
And now then, since sin came into the world through Jesus Christ, he has offered us the opportunity to reach his vision. But we have to make that choice.
Yep.
He can't make it for us.
Yep. That's what Paul's going to build on right there in these next few verses. Yes, sir.
I think he's also preparing us for the eternal kingdom.
It is, absolutely.
Oh, I thought you'd look.
I don't know how many of you have pets and that. I'm assuming most people do in that. And we get very attached to them. I mean, they're almost like our kids sometimes. And that. And as hard as they try, they cannot talk to us, can they? I mean, they can come pretty close, you know. I mean, you know, they can look up at us and wag, and do all that stuff. Maybe even go to the counter and, look up. They can do a lot of things. But God didn't design them to talk to us, did he? How has God designed us? We've been designed not only to talk to one another, but we have been designed, we have been purposed, we have been planned so that we will fit, what does he say? In heaven. Isn't that a wonderful thought? He's designed us for the purpose of us being in heaven. That's what God designed us for. That's really our purpose in life. Yes, sir.
Oh, here, Roy.
Just thinking about that, you know, when he said, "Let us make man in our
Yes.
own image."
Very good. Very good. That's exactly right. We think about our minds and how God designed us. You look at the tremendous power that we have with the way God has made our minds. We see things. We're able to reason, to understand. We're able to feel and have compassion. We're able to perceive things. And Paul says we're to be grateful. Well, there's a lot to be grateful for, more than I can really imagine. But he mentions some of these things, the way that we are made. Look at the talent that we have here in Podo. Look at the potential that we have this year of making a greater impact in our community, with our friends, with our loved ones, to encourage one another, to build us up, to help us be stronger and closer to God in Christ. Paul says he made us meet. He designed us for what? To be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light.
John,
Yes, sir.
he's talking about our potential, you know, through our geeks up there. I'll just, you know, I mean, we reach the whole world.
Absolutely.
You know,
We do.
and you know, and it's amazing sometimes how many people around the world sign in, and you know, and then we've got missionaries and overseas, and they're doing a lot of good. It seems like their reports come back, and they have several baptisms.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
you know, so they're doing some good. So our potential is not only here in Podo, our potential is all over the world, and
You're
we
absolutely right.
and we can build and keep growing on that, and make a difference.
I'm always amazed, you know, because there was an individual listening from Canada, and I was just kind of taken back because I had never considered it, to be honest with you, in that. But you're right. Partaker. What is a partaker? Okay. What's involved in it? Sharing. Okay, sharing.
Yeah.
If we partake in something, what are we doing? I'm not wording it real good, am I?
You are helping with that matter, or taking part of it as your own.
There you go. Let me use an illustration. The difference between going to a ball game
Playing a ball game.
and going out there in first base
Yep.
and playing. That's the word that he uses here when he talks about partaker. It's an action word, if you will. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, I was just thinking about Jesus and his life. You know, we as individuals, when we have something to do in the future, we worry about it and be concerned about it and all. Jesus knew the time that he was going to have to go to the cross. He knew what was going to happen, basically. And to live through that is amazing to me.
Well, it is. It truly is.
And-
And Paul's going to touch on that too.
Well, and another thing, I heard a preacher come to worship this morning. He made a statement. He said, a lot of times we pray for things and God answers them, no, it's not going to be that way. Do we get upset with God? Now, we've got to be careful there.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. Just because he doesn't do it my way. I have to put my trust in him and know, kenosos, that he will do what is best, whether I understand it or not. Yes, sir.
Christ also became a human being to be a partaker in the salvation in which we receive. So
Absolutely.
he became part of.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good, very good point. We're going to take part in heaven because that's what God designed us for. I mean, isn't that something it's hard to fully grasp? That we have been designed. The spark of life that God gives to us as individuals wasn't in the first century, wasn't 4,500 years ago, wasn't the Middle Ages, wasn't the last century. He put us here, now, at this time period, with talents and ability. He designed us. And I'm curious, to be honest with you. When we talk about he designed us for heaven, we know that there's going to be singing, and hopefully when I get up there, he'll give me a perfect voice, but it'll be perfect for him. But there's going to be singing. There's going to be a lot of rejoicing because faith becomes sight. The things that we anticipated, the things that we look forward to, the things that we hope for are opened up before us. They'll be praising God. All those activities and many more, day and night. Actually, there won't be a day and a night. It'll just be continuous. But my point is that heaven is not a place just to sit around. Not going to have easy chairs to just kick up our feet. We're not going to be looking to the four corners of the universe and looking around. It's active. We will be active. There's going to be things going on, and I don't know what all they'll be. But I know whatever they are, it's going to be worth any sacrifice that I need to make while I'm here on this earth. For partaking in the inheritance in the saints of life. So important. Look at verse 13. For he rescued us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son. So verse 13, when he talks about being thankful, he mentions deliverance. We have been delivered. We have been rescued. And the idea behind that word deliverance is the word snatching or bringing close to, if you will. The illustration that I think of is a mom. And moms can almost psychically know what a kid's going to do before they do it and grab them and pull them in a lot of times. You ever seen a mom, and that kid's fixing to do something that's going to harm him or hurt him and that, and all of a sudden she's got him and pulling him back to her? That's the word that Paul uses us. Deliverance. That's the word he's using. It's the same idea that you find in Jude, verse 24. It's about the lost. And he says, and with some snatching them out of the fire. So if I understand the passage correctly, Paul's saying, Christ snatched us. He drew himself or us to him and rescued us, delivered us. Look at Ephesians 1, verse 21 for a moment. It expands a little bit on Colossians. For above all principality and power and might and dominion, every name that is named, not only in this world, but also that which is to come. He's talking about powers, and he's contrasting them with the prince of darkness, and he uses the word power and darkness, and he'll use those two Greek words over and over again. Sometimes they're translated a little bit differently, but Paul is using those two words over and over again, and he's making that contrast of us being delivered.
John?
Yes, sir.
You know, it says Christ is seated at the right hand of God. You know, that the Bible teaches that. And then Romans 8:16, pull my phone back up here. It talks about that the Spirit bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God, and if children, then heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ. And if we're joint heirs with Christ, that means we will be at the right hand of God also. You know, we can be right there too, if our spirit will bear witness
Yes.
for us when we get there. So I can't, my little brain won't get around that. I guess what I'm trying to say, you know what all that entails, but it entails great things.
Oh, it does. More than we can imagine. Things to look forward to. When he talks about powers, it's the contrast. In the United States especially, I don't know about how you were raised, but I was raised basically to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Yeah. You're your own man. You can do what you want to do if you try hard enough. And that was always drilled into me, and I think a lot of other folks. Paul's saying that's really not accurate, isn't he? If we're talking about powers, if we're talking about rulers, if we're talking about the word translated authorities, what's he delivered us from? There's a contrast. The powers of darkness, the enlightenment of Jesus Christ, his kingdom, his reign, his rule, the ecclesia. See, one way or another, we're going to serve somebody. The idea that we're on our own and we're not going to serve anybody is foolishness. It's just a matter of choice of who we will serve. Look at Ephesians 2, verse 2, if you will, for a moment. Wherein in time past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air. The Spirit now worketh in the children of disobedience. Satan's described as the prince of the powers of the air. The word power there is the same word. The domain. The domain. And then later on in Ephesians 6 and verse 12, notice what he says. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So when he says that we don't struggle with flesh and blood, but against powers, that's the other word. There's two words that Paul uses over and over and over again to make his point. And darkness. And it goes all the way through the book of Ephesians. If I understand right, he's saying those powers, and the power of darkness and that, they have sway over the lives of people that don't have Christ. But God has qualified us. He delivered us out of one group and transferred us into the ecclesia, out of the grasp of those powers. Have you ever thought about Satan being able to pervert the mind? As a Christian, we have been delivered from that. What a marvelous thing it is to be set free from the weaknesses of the flesh, the darkness of the mind. You look at what goes on today, and it's disturbing, isn't it? Child abuse, missing children all the time, putting them into slavery, neglect of our children. Broken homes that destroy a family and hinder our young people. Addiction is a main problem today, isn't it? It even reaches into Poteau, small town, but it's there. Look at the hostilities around the world. It just seems like every nation is just mad at each other and ready to just do whatever. Think of the confusions of all the different religions of the world, especially the religions in the United States. I lost count of how many different religions there are in the United States, but it's a huge number. And then when you say, well, this group, and then you got a huge number of, it breaks down because they didn't even agree with themselves. Now think of being set free from all of that. How? By the love of Christ. He delivered us out of the power of darkness. So I guess my next question is, what is the power of darkness? When he says the power of darkness, what does Paul mean when he says that? What's he referring to? Any ideas? Thoughts?
It's spiritual,
Yep.
and I really don't think we as individuals really understand the power and the majesty of God's Spirit in us.
Yep. Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. The power of dark, yes, sir.
It's also causing the darkness is blinding us to the spiritual freedom that God is giving us in knowledge and wisdom and growing in Him, in the Spirit.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. Let me ask you, is the power of darkness spiritual death? I think that's what it is. Spiritual death is what he's talking about. And what does the spiritual death refer to? That's where that word that Paul uses, ecclesia, it carries with it authority, the power, the authority of darkness. Domain. Acts 26 and verse 18, the writer says, open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God. Darkness has a certain authority in this life. Jesus says Satan's the prince of this world. You look at John 14, you look at chapter 12 and verse 31, and a number of other places. And that's what Jesus says. In 2 Corinthians 4, verse 4, though, notice what Paul says. In whom the God of this world hath blinded their minds, to them that believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine on them. So what's Paul saying?
We can, in the beginning, it was all dark. Darkness
Yeah.
was there from the start. And I guess through the lust of the flesh and the pride of life and the three things that it mentions that pull us away, we're tempted to go back to that darkness. And if we succumb to that temptation, then as we go back toward darkness, we go away from the light.
Yep.
And then if the light can't reach us, then we're doomed.
Yep. No, you're right. He blinds the minds of the unbelieving. You see, Satan has a certain amount of authority. We really don't talk about that very much. So my question is, and what I was looking is, how does he have authority? And in what way does he have authority? Let me suggest to you that the only authority, the only power that Satan has is what?
Power of darkness,
Well, power of darkness.
power of blinding.
Yep, what God allows him to have. It's what we give him. The only authority that he has is what we give him. I don't know if I fully grasped that. But the only way he can have any effect is if we allow him that. The real authority is usurping. It's not the type of authority that Christ has, that God has. Let me try to illustrate it. And again, I may not do a great job of that. You ever have a job? Well, continuing. There's always a hierarchy, or usually, in that you've got a boss, and the boss has a boss, and so forth and so on. But usually there's a group of us that are working together. Same basic rule. But every once in a while, I was there where a guy wanted to boss everybody. And he was just another fellow worker. He'd press, he'd boss. And I think that's what Satan does. He does his best to boss. He can't make us do anything. James assured us that with every temptation, there's a way of escape. So the only way Satan can come in is if we allow him, if we let him come into our mind. And that's what Satan does. He tries to boss us. But the catch is, he's only allowed to do it if we let him. That's the type of authority that Satan has. Jesus describes him as the prince of the world. And it says, he has nothing in me. Jesus is saying, Satan doesn't have any control over me whatsoever. Why? Because Jesus would not submit to him. Been studying on Wednesday evening, I believe. I've missed a few Wednesdays. The life of Christ. And you see all the temptations, you see the difficulties, you see the different things, and Jesus never let him in. And then you get down to those last few days, and you can just almost see Satan desperate. So he does everything that he can possibly do for Jesus to finally let him in. And he didn't. He defeated him. He did not let Satan capture his mind. Satan does have a sphere of influence, and that's the darkness that's mentioned here. The world of darkness is the opposite of the ecclesia, the church, the kingdom, if you will. They're all used interchangeably. And Satan is very deceptive. You know, you hate to say he's smart, but he is. And he's had a crafty, yes. And he's had an awful lot of time to try to perfect his craft, to deceive people. He doesn't face us with something that'll be ridiculous to you, because you just laugh and go about your business. I know better.
I do a lot of VBS, or I have in the past, and so in dealing with Satan, I consider him a bully. He pushes, and to stand up to a bully, you push back, because that bully is not getting that same reaction to the child in the classroom. Same with Satan.
Yep. That's right.
You just say, not today, Satan, I'm God's child.
That's right.
And you move away.
Yep. When we resist, God gives us that avenue. Yes, sir.
That word snatch is also given to Satan, walking around to see who he can snatch away
Yes, it is.
and devour
That's right.
if we let him.
Yep, that's exactly right. Okay.
Hey, John. What I've going through my mind this whole class is Satan knows our weaknesses too.
Oh, yes.
And that's where he hits us the hardest.
Yes.
And we just
Absolutely.
have to pray that we don't succumb to that.
Yep. To be aware, not get blindsided. That's what way I always look at it. You know, I'm praying and I say, I don't want to be blindsided. Let me see what's coming at me, and then I can deal with it. Satan appeals to us by false doctrine. If he can get us to believe something that God didn't say, and to think we're safe, he's won. Look at the humanistic aspect of our society today. Some of our universities, some of our politicians, and I'm not trying to get into those things, but humanism has got a hold of a lot of people. And then again, there's that temptation of the flesh. Satan changes it just a little bit. Not that bad. And all of a sudden we find ourselves in a lot of trouble and woe. Look at the drugs in our society. It's one of Satan's tools. And I know I'm going on about it. But I want you to look at a passage. And then I'll stop. Galatians 5, verse 19 and 20. And I didn't realize until I got doing a word study. One of the works of the flesh that he says there is the word or is translated sorcery. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. I guess back then, how we think of sorcery. But the Greek word there is where we get pharmacology. That's where our word pharmacology comes from. Sorcery, literally defined, is the preparing or using of medicine, as in a pharmacy. Using any kind of drugs, potions, or spells. King James Version will translate it witchcraft. In the first century, they had drugs. There was an opium problem, and there was cannabis, even way back then. Now, a lot of it was used for the military when they were wounded and sick people and things like that, but there was a tremendous amount of abuse in that day and time as well. Alcohol was a big problem back then. Other substances, there were various different types of herbs and concoctions that were used. So it's not something new. There's just more and different varieties of them. And a life that is built on drugs or alcohol, it's one of the works of the flesh. And if someone asks, well, what's wrong with it? I mean, I've got a friend, and he smokes weed. And he's, getting close to 50. What's wrong with it is that it alters the mind. That's what this has been leading up to, and I'm running out of time, and I apologize. The power that Satan has is we let him into our mind, and it changes. What do drugs, alcohol, and all these things do? They change our thinking. They make it where we aren't sound in thought.